Hello and welcome to the episode of the Bubbs on Sports podcast. Today is Friday, April 28th. Hope every day so far and had a good rest of their day yesterday. It is, in fact, Friday, April 28th here today. We got a lot to get into as it has been an exciting time in sports, specifically in New York sports, as you got hockey playoffs going on. You got NBA playoffs with the New York Knicks defeating the Cavs in 5 games. They will now face the Miami Heat, who had a surprising 5-game victory, 5-game series win over the Bucks. So you'll get Knicks, Heat, Isles tonight playing for their playoff lives against the Hurricanes. The New York Rangers, I will get into them. A disappointing 3 games in a row, a pathetic 3 games in a row. They win the first 2 games by a combined score of 10-2, 5-1 in each of those games. They go to Madison Square Garden with a commanding 2-0 lead, and they lose in overtime. They lose game 4, and last night was pathetic. It was embarrassing on so many levels. They fall down early 39 seconds into the game, and there was no looking back for the Devils as they get the win 4-0. No help for Igor Shesterkin, a 0 effort in the third period as well. It was a 3-0 game. You go into the third period, and the least the Rangers could have done was show some sort of a pulse, show some sort of life, get some pressure on net, maybe score a goal or 2, put some pressure on the Devils heading into Game 6, and the Rangers didn't even do that. They barely got any pressure on the net. Third period was probably their worst period of the night, and the Rangers now, after looking into a 2-0 series lead going into Madison Square Garden, which is almost like a death sentence for many teams, the Rangers now tomorrow night will be fighting for their playoff lives, and they will have to win tomorrow night, and if they get the job done there, they'll have to go back to Prudential Center and win Game 7. So the Rangers got their work cut out for them. It is frustrating on so many levels. We'll get into it. We'll take a deep dive into what has gone wrong and what the Rangers need to do, as they need to switch here on a dime and get ready for tomorrow night because they're playing for their playoff lives. Jets got Rodgers. They draft Will McDonald last night. Giants draft the corner. We'll get into both those moves as well. We'll get into a little Isles tonight as they face the Hurricanes back at UBS Arena. They look to force a Game 7 down in Raleigh, North Carolina. So they look to get a series win there. They look to force a Game 7. A little bit of a different perspective, though, on forcing Game 7s. The Islanders are in a position trying to come back 3-1. They were down 2-0. Now they're trying to fight back. The Rangers are trying to avoid choking a 2-0 lead. So, 2 different series. Nets took a tough series loss. I know it's forever ago. They got swept. We'll touch a little bit upon them. It's one of these episodes we're going to get into a lot. I'll start with the Jets here and Aaron Rodgers, and I want to touch upon this here very quickly. I've had a lot of content out on my In the Trench with Gangrene podcast, my Jets podcast that I do on Apple Podcasts. Check that out. Awesome content on there. I really appreciate it. Talking all things Rodgers. I want to be short and sweet with this. Obviously, the trade went down Monday. Wednesday was his press conference. We're now sitting here Friday. It's night 2 of the NFL draft, and Rodgers is a Jet, and all that's great. Number one, we as fans, we so deserve this. I talked about this when he made his decision on McAfee to say that he wanted to play for the New York Jets. I made it clear that, us fans deserve this. All the years of the pain, the agony, specifically at the quarterback spot, with all the frustration, the embarrassment, being the laughingstock of the league, being the bottom barrel, always being the little brother, getting crushed by the media, all of this, to get a legit number 1 quarterback in here, to get one of the better quarterbacks, not just in the league today, but one of the better quarterbacks in the league of all time. One of the best quarterbacks to ever play the game. One of the best ever to do it. Both on a winning level and an overall talent level. Has a Super Bowl, 4 MVPs, been to the playoffs a ton. All of these great things with Aaron Rodgers. He comes here. Their Jets had one missing piece. It's been that missing piece forever. It's always been the quarterback. The Jets have found their quarterback. You add him with a receiving room that includes Garrett Wilson. That includes his former teammate in Allen. Well, not his former teammate, but his teammate in Green Bay. Now they're teammates here with the Jets in Allen Lazard. You have McCall Harmon. Looks like Corey Davis will be a Jet. The Jets might add a playmaker today. Could it be Jalen Hyatt? Could it be Cedric Tillman? Who could it be? The Jets receiving core stacked. You have Breece Hall. You add Aaron Rodgers. You have a top 5 defense in the NFL. This team is ready to win. They're ready to win now. And I've said this a lot. This Jet team is a Super Bowl contender. And when you look at the trade compensation, I know a lot of people are a little iffy. Look, they swap first-round picks. Jets get Will McDonald out of that. They gave him next year's first, but let's be honest here. If the Jets have a good year, it's going to be a late first. And I don't think anybody's going to care that if we don't have a first-round pick next year, if we go on and win a Super Bowl, or if we go on and have a really good year. He's committed. He said in his press conference he's ready to go. He's committed. He's here for the offseason workouts, which is huge. One of my biggest worries with Rodgers that I said many times in this show was how much would he be committed? Would he do the offseason workouts, or would he just come to the introductory press conference, say, oh yeah, I'm excited to be here, and then not show up again until training camp? What type of Aaron Rodgers are we getting? We're getting a motivated Aaron Rodgers. We're getting an Aaron Rodgers that is happy to be where he is wanted. We're getting an Aaron Rodgers that is hungry. We're getting an Aaron Rodgers that said that Super Bowl III trophy was looking lonely. He would not come to a team, and he said this. He's going to be 40 years old in December. He wouldn't come to a team that he didn't think could win a Super Bowl at this age. He's trying to win and win now because he doesn't got much time left. So we're getting a motivated, ticked-off Aaron Rodgers, which is the best type of Aaron Rodgers, a refreshed Aaron Rodgers. And Aaron Rodgers, to begin with, is one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time. The New York Jets, we got a quarterback. And let's be honest here, fans, Super Bowl contenders is a realistic possibility. And don't let anybody else bring you down. To the people out there that say we gave up too much, you don't know what you're talking about. I'll just brutally be honest. You know, maybe I shouldn't say you don't know what you're talking about, but in terms of what he could bring, if he goes here and wins 13 games, is that giving up too much? There's going to be a risk. I think at times, too, us Jet fans lowballed a little bit of what we had to give. Again, it's Aaron Rodgers. He's been there for 18 years, Super Bowl champion, 4-time NFL MVP, 2 NFL MVPs in the last 3 years. Like, I think we were lowballing a little bit of his value. The Jets are going to want, or the Packers are going to want a lot for Aaron Rodgers. So I think at times us Jet fans saying, oh, we should be able to get him for 2 seconds and a third. We'll be all right. We lowballed him a little bit. They were going to want a first. I think we can all agree. So, big deal for the Jets. Amazing time to be a New York Jet fan. New life, new quarterback. Super Bowl is right there. And let's do it. So, that's what I got on Aaron Rodgers. Giants last night, or Jets obviously, drafted Will McDonald. A interesting move. I'm not going to sit here and say that I don't like it. I'm 50-50. He's got some upside, very quick, got a lot of speed, very athletic. I probably, tackle, Broderick Jones going to Pittsburgh, them jumping us, trading the Patriots traded back, them getting Jones. It's a little frustrating. We didn't go playmaker. I thought we would go playmaker. Didn't go Kalijah Cansey. They go edge. It's interesting. Adds more depth. Young guy. I'm not in love with it, but we'll see what they do tonight with the 43rd overall pick. The Giants obviously drafted Deonte Banks from Maryland, and there's a couple big corners in this draft. And Deonte Banks was the 5th ranked cornerback, 88 overall grade, 27 overall rank from Maryland. His comparison is to Byron Jones. Very good in press, very good in zone coverage, good speed, good physicality. 6 foot, which is tall for a corner, lanky. He's got some size. Solid acquisitions for the Giants, which they need. They need another quarterback. They need cornerback. They need another guy in the secondary. Could Brian Branch be in play for them? I think he could potentially be in play for both the Jets and the Giants tonight. So I think there's a lot to like there if you're a Giants fan with last night's pick, picking up Deonte Banks from Maryland, a much-needed corner to a secondary that obviously needs to be improved. And when you look at the Giants, they drafted a corner, and it looks like they're going to continue to look at other secondary guys to try and close the gap with Philly. And last night, Philly had another phenomenal draft. This is a team last night that got to the Super Bowl last year, and they potentially got the best guy in the draft. A lot of people say Jalen Carter was the most talented player in the draft, but the off-the-field incident earlier this year caused some issues between teams and him, and that's why he dropped all the way to number 9. But they got Jalen Carter, who, as long as if he can stay in check, you pair him up with that defensive line, Jordan Davis, who already is another Georgia Bulldog. They add Nolan Smith as well, another Georgia Bulldog. They already have Nakobe Dean. That team is loaded with guys from Georgia. The Eagles are a serious threat. I think the Eagles are the best team in the NFC, and I think last night, if there was any questions, it put them over the top again that they're the team to beat in the NFC going into this season, as they nailed the first round of the draft, taking Nakobe Dean, Jalen Carter and Nolan Smith. If you would have told me they would have got those two guys last night at 9 and 31, I would have thought you were crazy. Because again, Jalen Carter had some off the field issues, but team trades up. Do the Eagles take him? Do the Eagles want, all those questions come in, and Nolan Smith, one of those guys that some thought might go top 20, top 15, falls all the way to 31. So the Eagles last night, a couple things went their way. They got two really talented players on the defensive side of the ball. So tonight, again, Jets will have the 43rd overall pick. Obviously, they traded 42 with the Packers, so they'll have one pick. They don't have any third-round picks. The Giants will have the 57th overall pick, and they'll have, I believe they also have a third-round pick. They do. They'll have the 89th, 26th overall pick in the third round, 89th overall in the draft. Jets will have also some day 3 picks as well as we head into the weekend. Tonight, 7 p.m. Eastern, will be rounds 2 and 3. Tomorrow, 4 through 7, starting at 12 Eastern to wrap up the 2023 NFL Draft. And I always say this, night 2, never sleep on night 2 of the NFL Draft. I think night 2, I like night 1 a lot, but I think night 2 is up there with one of those nights where it's just like, you know what? You get really excited because, like, you get excited about whoever you drafted in the first round, right? And again, this year with the Jets is a little different. But like last year, for example, with the Jets, when they got Garrett Wilson, Sauce Gardner, Jermaine Johnson in the first round, you were so pumped up. And in the second round comes, and you're like, all right, what can we do more? Like, because I always say this, and I just got done doing a Jets podcast, an Apple podcast that is going up there right now. By the time this is up, it's probably already out. And I said this every year in the draft. There's always 5 to 8 guys that are first-round talents. Because I think we can all agree there's 32 picks, obviously, first round. There's probably about 40 guys that are first-round talents. And there's obviously only 32 get picked in the first round. There's always those 5 to 8 guys that are legitimate first-round talents that drop into the second round. Now, some of those guys turn into legitimate play. I thought Denzel Mims was the first-round talent. Boy, I was wrong, right? I think a guy like a Brian Branch, first-round talent. John Michael Schmitz, first-round talent. I'm very high on Jalen Hyatt, rather. I think he's a guy that is a borderline first-round, second-round talent. So there's a lot of guys still available for all these teams, not just the Jets, to pick. So round 2, night 2 of the NFL Draft is always exciting, especially early on, because I look at it as, like, the first 10 picks, 10, 15 picks-ish, I still view kind of as the first round. Because, again, not all players, like, Will Levis isn't going to go number 1. Like, you're still going to, like, Brian Branch might drop depending on team needs. Like, the Steelers aren't going to draft Brian Branch. They don't need a safety. They got Minkah Fitzpatrick, right? But the first 10, 15 picks, to me, it's still like almost watching the first round where you have those guys that are borderline. You have some of those guys. Brian Branch is a first-round talent. It just so happened he fell out. And you have some of those other guys like a Jalen Hyatt, Cedric Tillman as well, that are borderline first-round talent, more so upper second round, but they're there. So tonight will be exciting. We're looking forward to watch that. We'll get into the Yankees and Mets here as well. Knicks obviously win in 5. They move on. They'll face the Miami Heat. So a great series win for them. Jalen Brunson is a star. If you would have told me at the beginning of the year, back in the summer, when the Knicks were making their push for Donovan Mitchell, if you would have told me Jalen Brunson and the New York Knicks would have beat the Cleveland Cavaliers after the Cavs got Donovan Mitchell in the first round, I would have thought you were crazy. I thought the Brunson signing was solid for the Knicks. I did not think it would take them to this height. And the Knicks are not only setting themselves up for now, but they're setting themselves up for the future because players, big-time players, are going to want to come and play with the New York Knicks and play with Jalen Brunson. So an exciting time to be a Knicks fan. I don't like the success because I don't like the Knicks, but I got to give credit where credit's due. Tom Thibodeau, the Knicks, Jalen Brunson specifically, Josh Hart. I mean, what a find he has been. He might be one of the better trade deadline acquisitions we've seen in the NBA in a while in terms of we again, like we talk about the trade. We sometimes lose sight of what the trade deadline always is about. The trade deadline is about finalizing your roster. So come playoff time, you're extremely better. Like finding a hole that might affect you during the playoffs or building your roster so you get to the playoffs. The Knicks had a hole in their roster. Josh Hart has not only filled that role, got them to the postseason, but he's a big reason why they beat the Cavs in 5 games. And he loves it in New York. Got the New York braids. He's just taking in everything New York. He's been an exciting player to watch. Plays with a lot of energy. And I mean, as outside of Brunson, has been the Knicks' best player, I think you can agree. R.J. Barrett, after starting out really poorly, finished the series very well in Cleveland. Mitchell Robinson as well. Him and Bam Adebayo should be some fun battles. Jimmy Butler with a great round. So an exciting second-round matchup between the Heat and the Knicks. Nets get swept by the Sixers. You go into an offseason where it's interesting to see what the Nets are going to do. Whether they go, Bridges is phenomenal. You hang on to him. I thought Dinwiddie was horrible this series. I think you get rid of Dinwiddie, find a legit point guard. Maybe you want to bring Dinwiddie back and have him come off the bench as your backup, which I think is where he's actually better at. Whatever you do, Bridges is here. I think Cam Johnson stays. Obviously, Claxton coming off of a phenomenal season, his best year of his career. He'll be back. The Nets have some foundational pieces. Do they go out and strike a deal for Damian Lillard? Do they do that? Do they strike a deal for another star? What did the Nets do? Do they kind of stay put? It's going to be interesting to see what the Nets do. They have so many roads they can go down. They got to choose one. So a big offseason ahead for the Brooklyn Nets early on in this post-Kevin Durant, Kyrie Irving, James Harden superstar era, whatever you want to call it, that blew up in their face in Brooklyn to this summer is a big one for the Brooklyn Nets. Do they go star chasing again? We'll see. We'll see what the Nets do. But I will tell you, Mikal Bridges on the contract he's at right now, I mean, he's turning into a star. He really is. So he's a guy, you bring him with Lillard, Nets can get something going next year. The Nets can still be a threat in the East. I'm not saying they're going to win it all, but the Nets, I don't get this envision that the Nets are going to roll out there on opening night next season with these expectations of, maybe they'll win 30 games. No, I think the Nets I think the Nets should be and will be competitive next year. I don't think there's any excuse for Sean Marks to. This team was able to play 500 basketball, a little less than that, but still, they were 11-13, I think, after Kevin Durant, Kyrie Irving. They got swept by a better team, by a team that might go on and win it all. I mean, the Sixers have a chance. I'm not saying they will, but they've got a shot, right? Once you're in the tournament, you have a chance. Everybody does. So it'll be interesting, but the Nets got some work to do. But I mean, if they bring in Lillard, they can easily be a 40+. I mean, they could easily be a 48, 49 win team. I'm not saying they're going to go on and win 58 games, but they can be a 46, 47 win team. I mean, they were a 45 win team this year. And again, I think, even if you bring back this same crew, I think they could be a borderline 40-win team. Maybe, 40, 41, a 500 team. Add a couple other more pieces. The Nets aren't as far off as many expected. In terms of like when they traded Kevin Durant, I think we all assumed that this team would just turn to a dumpster fire. Now, Seth Curry, Joe Harris, guys like that, some of those veterans got to go. They do need some more center help depth-wise. How do they approach that? I mean, you get Lillard in here, pair him up with Cam Johnson, Mikal Bridges. I mean, that's exciting. It is. So the Nets can. Again, I'm not saying they're going to build this team and next year they're going to have championship aspirations. But I think there is this notion going around that the Nets are going to blow it all up, and next year they're going to be a 25-win team. Like, no. This roster is way better than that, and you assume they make improvements. So if I'm Sean Marks, I hope he takes the route of improving this roster and not trying to kind of stay put or take a step back a little bit. I hope this team continues to shoot for the playoffs. I do. Because I don't think they're that far off. I'm not saying they're far. Again, are they going to win a championship like within the next 5 years? Probably not. But can they stay competitive? Can they be in the postseason? Yeah, I do. I think they can do that. So we'll see what the Nets do this offseason. But there are a lot of questions. All right. So I got to get into the Rangers. And I guess I'll start with the Islanders. They played tonight against the Canes. Phenomenal Game 5 victory by them on the road in Carolina. So they got the Hurricanes tonight at home at UBS Arena. If they win tonight, they'll face Sunday, Game 7, back down and rally for, obviously, the decider to play the Rangers and the Devils. So right now, Rangers-Devils got to win 2 straight games if we want to get a Rangers-Islanders got to win 2 straight games if we want to get a Rangers-Islanders second-round series. Now, the 2 ways these teams have gotten to Game 6 is completely different. For the Devils' perspective, the Islanders' perspective, they fell down 2-0 early in the series. They came back home. They won Game 3. They lost Game 4 badly, 5-2, and they go down 3-1. And you go to rally for Game 5. You win that game 3-2, close late, Aho with a late goal, but they secure the win. The Islanders have been competitive. I had a feeling this was going to be a 7-game series. I still think it goes the distance. I had the Islanders in 7. I'm not saying that I don't believe in the Islanders, but if I had to guess, with the way the series has been, I just don't see the Hurricanes losing another game at home, Game 7. I just don't. I do think the Islanders will win tonight. I think they've got the crowd behind them. I think they realize Game 7, Carolina had a Game 7 last year against the Rangers at home after going ahead 2-0, and they blew the series. So, I think if you're an Islanders fan, you win tonight. Again, Game 7, anything can happen. You force a Game 7, anything can happen. No matter the previous 6 games mean nothing. They mean nothing. Game 7's best 2 words in sports. Game 7. It really is. So the Islanders try to do that tonight. And we'll see if they can at home, UBS Arena, 7 Eastern on TBS. So a packed night ahead. You got that. You got the draft. Last night you had the Rangers. Yankees got the Mets as well. Tons on. April, May, great months. Especially if your hockey and basketball teams play. My basketball team's out. My hockey team's 1 game away from being out of it. And then I got baseball. But, man, I do a lot right now to get this Ranger team to start playing the way they played in the games 1 and 2. So that leads me to the New York Rangers. They've been pathetic. I guess I'll start off with the first 2 games of this series. Again, I had the preview, and I appreciate him coming on with Johnny Lazarus, and we were talking all about, what the Rangers have to do. The speed, containing the Devils' speed, not letting them get in transition, Jack Hughes, turnovers in the neutral zone, all that stuff. The Rangers completely dominated the Devils in games 1 and 2. By a total score, as I mentioned, to open today's program, 10-2. 5-1 in game 1, and game 1 was completely commanding, because they never fell behind. They were winning the entire game. The Devils didn't score a goal until 17 minutes and 14 seconds in to the third period to make it a 4-1 game. Game 2, the Devils struck first, but then after that, it was 5 straight goals for the Rangers. 3 in the second, 2 more in the third. 5-1 victory in game 2. You're getting goals from guys like Kreider, Tarasenko. Kane had a goal, a very good game 2. His best series. He had a rough game 1, a very good game 2, and he's been disappeared since. Tarasenko disappeared. Kreider has disappeared. The Rangers go home, and they lose 2-1 in overtime. And I got to admit, coming out of that series, I did not feel coming out of that game. They lose that game. I just didn't feel well. I felt, not in terms of like feeling, but I just in terms of, because it seemed like the Devils kind of figured us out. The Rangers obviously got off to that good start. 3 minutes and 39 seconds in, Kreider scored the goal. The Devils scored late in the period. Then they scored another goal in overtime. That was it. Or the Rangers scored in the second period, and then the Devils scored and all that stuff. Game 2 was frustrating on many levels, or Game 3, because they should have won that game. They had many chances. You go to they had so many chances, a couple shots that they missed, passing open shots. And it was a frustrating loss, and my emotions took it over. I was like, oh, series is done. But again, Devils played their best game. They only won by 1 in overtime. So you go to Game 4, and the Rangers look flat again. Vincent Trocheck with the only goal, which didn't mean anything, because then, it makes it a 1-1 game. 6-7 minutes later, Devils with another goal. They end up scoring an empty netter 3-1. Pathetic performance. Pathetic 2 performances on home ice. You go from scoring 10 goals in 2 games. The Rangers have scored 3 goals in the last 180 minutes of hockey, the last 3 games. A little bit more than that because of the overtime period, but you get what I'm saying. The last 3 games, plus the couple minutes of overtime in Game 3, the Rangers have scored 2 goals after scoring 10 goals in Games 1 and 2. Pathetic, embarrassing, frustrating, abysmal, whatever word you want to use, you can use it. Go ahead. Because it perfectly describes the way this series has been since the Rangers left Prudential Center with a 2-0 lead, and since that Saturday night overtime loss last week. Where now we sit here a week later, and the Rangers tomorrow night are playing with their playoff lives on the line. They got to win tomorrow night, and then they got to win in Game 7 on the road in Prudential Center. And I'm sorry, I have no optimism whatsoever. I think the Devils have figured us out. They're playing fast. They're getting in transition. The Rangers are not getting any shots on net. The one concern, we went into this series, the concern was the defense against this transition, against this fast team. When the Rangers picked up Patrick Kane and Vladimir Tarasenko at the trade deadline, nobody expected this team to struggle scoring goals. Nobody. That was the least of our worries. Our worries were defense. You could score 4 goals a game, but how are they going to be in front of Igor? How are they going to be, forechecking? How are they going to be in transition? How are they going to be against teams like the Devils that are fast and like to play a north and south type of game? And Igor has been phenomenal this series. Last night he got no help, especially in the third period. The team completely gave up, and I go back to one play specifically with Panarin. Turnover in the offensive zone. Devils take it 2-on-1 the other way. Panarin doesn't even try. He doesn't even try. He's lightly skating down the ice, watches them score, take a 3-0 lead on a power play shorthanded goal. A 2-on-1 shorthanded. Panarin's not even trying on the play. Was pathetic. That was the last straw for me last night. And I got to admit, I know some people are like, and I get this, and I don't like this at times, because you know how I am as a sports fan. When I react to what I see, that's just the way I am. Like, no matter what player you are, no matter how good you've been, if you make a bad play, I'm going to be upset. Like, that's just the way it is. That's how I am. Panarin's been great for the Rangers. Great in the regular season. Had the overtime goal last year against the Penguins, Game 7, to get us to the second round. All of that good stuff has been a big reason why we're here. A big signing, offense, all that stuff. But let's not deflect the blame. Panarin and Mika, because some people don't like to blame him either, have been abysmal in this series. They've done nothing. 4 points between the two, no goals in 5 games. Your top 2 guys this year offensively have done nothing. They've disappeared. They deserve a lot of this blame. They really do. And I'm sorry, the Devils have figured us out. And I have no optimism going into tomorrow night's game. I picture a 4-1 Devils win. That's just the way it is. The Rangers look flat. I think that they took the Devils lightly after game 1 or after game 2. I think they've said, 2-0 lead, and I don't care about what they say to the press. They're going to sit up there and say, job's not finished, got a lot more work to do. The Rangers forgot it takes 16 wins to win a Stanley Cup, not 14, or not 2. They have 14 more wins left. They didn't realize that. So, pathetic, abysmal. This team has, given up. Last night, they gave up in the third period. They gave up in a playoff game. And I'm not one to just, fire the coach. But, Gallant, really? You have your guys come out in the third period like that? I get it's a 3-0 game. I get it you don't want to do anything stupid and, make it a 6-0 game and get it way out of hand where it's almost just like a absolute just murder. But, come on. You couldn't try to put a little bit of pressure on that? The Rangers came out flat. They came out flat in the third period. Again, they weren't scoring goals at all. So I'm not saying if they would have scored a goal, it would have changed the game. But let's say they score a goal 5 minutes into the third period. It at least puts a little bit of pressure on the Devils. At least. Where maybe the Devils, all right, say, you know what, it's a 2-goal lead. We'll play a little bit more conservative. And all of a sudden, maybe as the Rangers are able to open things up a little bit. Right? So instead of the Devils, being that transition team, maybe they, you score a goal 5 minutes in and you kind of be like, all right, 3-1 game, we're up by 2, we have an opportunity to take a 3-2 lead, don't do anything stupid. Which is smart. You don't, right? Don't be too overly aggressive. Just play smart, kind of juice the clock. Rangers take a penalty 3 minutes in, Devils score a goal. Which was just, never mind. It was 3-0. They go out in third period, and nothing happened. They score an empty netter. Rangers don't get any shots on, they had one shot on net at one point. They got outshot 14-1 in the third. So, they at least couldn't put any pressure, any momentum on Schmid. And look, Akira Schmid's been great. And whether or not he's the reason why the Rangers, there are some times where they're just overpassing, and that's happened way too much with us. I don't know. It's frustrating. There obviously is, it's Schmid's been great, and sometimes you run into a hot goaltender, but not all this is him either. Some of these shots some of these saves he's out are great, but some of it's turnovers too the Rangers are getting, like that the turnover on Panarin. There's no forecheck. There's points in the game where they'll go 5-6 minutes. They're just dump and chase hockey. They're not going to do you anything. Dump and chase, dump and chase, dump and chase, line change, dump and change, line. Not going to do you anything in the NHL. And the Rangers right now are, this is what happens. Take your opponent lightly after game 2, and now you're 1 game away from getting knocked out when a year later you were 2 games away from getting to the Stanley Cup. And you only got better. This would be an epic disaster for this Ranger team. So, got to win tomorrow night. And as I mentioned, Game 7, anything can happen. The Rangers had new lines today at practice. Kreider, Zibanejad, Tarasenko, Laf, Trocheck, Kane, Panarin, Hedl, Kakko, Vesey, Gaudreau, Mott. So they kept the fourth line the same. They mixed up 1, 2, and 3. They separated the kid line. Laf goes to the second line. Hedl, Kakko, welcome Panarin. Panarin getting moved to the third line, I think, tells you a lot about how they feel about him right now. It does. And that turnover last night was brutal. That ended the game. You have a 2-0 game with a power play. You score a goal there. It's a 1-goal game. You're right back in it. Instead, turn it over. You can't get they couldn't settle the puck. And he doesn't even, what got me angry was the hustle back. He wasn't even hustling back. 2-on-1. He was, lightly skating down the ice like, not my problem. That, to me, got me most frustrated. So I think him going down to the third line tells you all you need to know right now about the way Gallant feels about his effort and his play so far through this series in general. So, I don't know. But tomorrow night, 8 Eastern ABC. And again, I don't want to sound like I'm too negative, but I want him to win. I want him to win tomorrow. I want him to win Game 7, go on and win a Stanley Cup. That's always what you want. But what I think is going to happen is I just don't think they're going to win the series. I really don't. It's just it's crazy to me that the way those first two games went, and it wasn't I don't know if I want to say it was surprising, but it was like, again, you have Patrick Kane, you have Tarasenko. Those guys were making impact. Kreider, who's been phenomenal in the postseason, he was making impact. It was like everything you kind of expected this Ranger team to do was doing. And in the last 3 games, they've disappeared. So, brutal. Yankees, the Bats were quiet for 3 games in a row. Then they bursted out on Wednesday against the Twins, 12-6. Last night they get the win, 4-2. Cole was great again. Judge had the hand and the hip. Volpe's getting hot, so Judge, hopefully he's all right. They'll get the Texas Rangers second game of 4-game set today, 8:05 p.m. Eastern in Texas. So the Yankees will look to get the series and go for the series win tomorrow. And if they do that, sweep Sunday. That is asking for a lot, but tonight will be game 2 of the 4-game set. You'll get Clark Schmidt versus Jacob deGrom on the mound for the Texas Rangers as he'll face the Yankees. Aaron Hicks has been horrible. Volpe's getting hot. The bats are interesting. This team's just got to find a way to continue to just stay above water, but these bats have not been good. LeMahieu has been great. And it really, when you look at the lineup, you look at the top 5 guys in the lineup, and it's ugly. You're the top 5 guys in the lineup, and then after that, it's ugly, I say. Like, after that, it's ugly. The bottom 4 guys, Hicks, whether it's IKF, whether it's, Jose Trevino, he was solid, but, some of these other guys, Calhoun, like, what? So, it hasn't been good. But you hope once Stan comes back, you hope once we get healthier, all around, the team's just better. But a nice back-to-back wins for the Yankees after a really, really rough 3 games, both Sunday against the Blue Jays, Monday and Tuesday against Minnesota, where they scored 2 runs in 2 games. And Joey Gallo and Sonny Gray shut them down on the mound, and Joey Gallo's raking. Joey Gallo hit a home run. Joey Gallo's been great. Again, he's a small market player. What can I tell you? He really is, because he went from Texas to New York. New York was not good with the Yankees. He goes to L.A., was not good. Big market L.A., big market New York. Goes to Minnesota, batting .280, hitting for power. Like, what? So, Joey Gallo is doing his job. The Mets, also similar spot like the Yankees. Rough, 2 games against the Nationals. They lose the first 2 games by a combined score of 9-1. They lose the final game of the series against San Francisco. And again, they had a day off Monday. We're coming off a West Coast trip. But you get the Nationals at home, and they lose that series. They barely win it last night, 9-8. C.J. Abrams with a big homer, grand slam. Mets end up winning at 9-8. And now they go welcome the Braves in town for a big series. 3-game set coming up tonight, tomorrow, and then Sunday. Tonight, you'll get David Peterson versus Max Fried. Justin Verlander made his rehab start, so he'll be back soon. So hopefully the Yankees and the Mets both are starting to get a little bit healthier here as April rolls on and we get closer to May. So that will do it. Packed podcast. I think over 30 minutes. A lot discussed. Tonight, NFL Draft, Islanders, Yankees, Mets. A lot going on. NHL playoffs, NBA playoffs. Lakers look to close out the series against the Timberwolves or the Grizzlies, rather. Grizzlies. I keep getting the Timberwolves and the Grizzlies mixed up. They'll look to close things out against the Grizzlies tonight at home in L.A. Islanders will look to survive and move on to Sunday to play Game 7 down in Raleigh. And in the NBA, you've also got Warriors-Kings. Warriors looking to close out the series after dropping the first 2 games. They look to close things out tonight at home in San Francisco. You also got Bruins-Panthers. Bruins look to close out that series. Stars look to close out the series against the Wild. And the Kraken look to move on and defeat the defending champs tonight at home at Climate Pledge Arena in Seattle, would obviously be that franchise's first playoff series win in their second season in the league. So a lot of big storylines tonight, a lot of excitement. Round 2 of the NFL draft as well, round 2 and 3. So packed night ahead. Enjoy your weekend. As always, hope you enjoyed it, and thanks for watching.